Hi there, knife people, hello lady and gentlemen. I'd like to show you the result of today's sharpening before we even get into the thick of it. I accelerated this segment to 1.25, that's why I'm doing voiceover. This is a paper towel roll tube made out of a cardboard, and it has these glue lines too. And no, I am not trying to get the edge hit the glue line to ease starting the cut. To start the cut, you need to kind of figure out the angle at which you're going to quote-unquote attack it. And it's all correlated to the sharpening angle of your secondary bevel. To succeed at this seemingly easy but actually difficult task, you need to keep the cutting edge absolutely clean. And after a couple passes through cardboard, they're cliffhangers, they're little particles of cardboard. Couple passes on the smooth side of the strop takes care of that. But enough about that. If you watch my channel on a regular basis, you know I'm a knife collector, but I also enjoy sharpening. And lately I've been discovering an Amazon sharpener called XARILK, and this is a third video about this sharpening device. But if you don't own this device or not planning to buy one, these tips will still apply to best sharpeners out there in the market. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to implement some of the suggestions and recommendations my viewers made in the comments. One of the comments under my previous video said that when they sharpen with this device, they get micro scratches on the blade. And I want to show you that that is exactly what I got on this blade when I was sharpening it on this device. That can happen when you're in a hurry, as I was, I confess. This is totally preventable, and I'll show you how to prevent it. When you're sharpening like so and you get to the edge, boom, this continues to move, but now what's touching the blade is this edge of the sharpening stone, and that leaves this ugly micro scratches which are near impossible to get rid of. So if you don't pay attention, you will permanently, I wouldn't say damage, but you will change the appearance of your prized possession knife. And it has nothing to do with the fact that these plates are backed by plastic. It has more to do with the fact that there is no stop in the traverse of that rod. I'll get to the plates in a second, but this is what I did. I perused on Amazon and I found the set of appropriately sized bushings. And what they are, their inside diameter is 6 millimeters, and it matches the rod. Now they're called 6 millimeters, but when I went to put them on, let me grab the new one because these are already adjusted. I'll just grab the one that I haven't adjusted yet. So when you look at it there, that little Pokemon mouth is a little bit open. So when you first put it on your rod, it will flap. They're designed to be tightened. So when you adjust them, you really kind of have to crank it down. So you will put one first on this part of the rod, right? And then tighten it down just so that it doesn't flap around. It doesn't take much, but you have to put some torque. I think maybe 20 inch-pounds of torque to torque it down. And T10 driver works with these particular bushings. Now, there are bushings that are split all the way with 2 screws. I didn't like them because I don't want to deal with 4 screws total, you know what I mean? Being 6 millimeters ID or inside diameter bushings, they are compatible with this set, also with Worksharp Professional Precision Adjust, but not with Precision Adjust Basic. And also, they will work with XARILK folding set, which I am going to include in my near future video. It's a great upgrade for Worksharp Pro because all the stopping happens thanks to these rubber bushings, and they slide easily, so if you're aggressive in your sharpening, you will move them. Keep in mind that geometry of Worksharp Pro is different, so you would really only need them if you're sharpening blades wider than 1 3/4 inches. My mentality is better have them and not need them than the other way around. Anything that has 6 millimeter rod, which is roughly equivalent to 1/4 inch, so I imagine that they will even work with a 1/4 inch rod, whichever device you have. they're all good to go. So this is the important step. Don't forget to put now this bushing on, and don't tighten it too much. Just make sure it doesn't slide off as you're screwing it all together. Don't forget to tighten that thumb screw. Very important. Otherwise, it will come loose. Now, notice how I kept experimenting with, it rolls when it's round. I hated it. So now at least when I put it on the edge of my bench, it sits square. But because of the geometry of it, like you can't make a flat here and still have it sit. It has to go all the way to the edge of the bench. Next tip I got from one of my viewers had to do with the media plate, sharpening media plate. You see, the ones that came with the XARILK Gen 3 are a plastic bed. And that's why they bend slightly under the tension of that spring. That spring is horrendously strong. Of course, I could shorten it or replace it with a lighter spring. Instead, I decided to try out a set of sharpening plates backed by aluminum, which are marked SY tools on the plates themselves, but they're sold under different brand names. You know how Amazon gets crazy like that sometimes. The link will be in the description below, and you will get 10 plates for $40. So it's $4 a plate. I used some of them to process 3 knives so far, and I discovered no issues except for one little pesky problem, which happens only once in their lifetime, namely when you open the package. I'll get to it in a second. And the plate grids you get with this set are 80, 200, 400, 500, 600, 800, 1000, 1500, 2000, and 3000. When you take them out of the packaging, this edge is extremely sharp. And on some of them, there's actually a sharpening burr. When they machine that slope down, they leave a little burr. But you don't even need a file to fix the problem because you have 80 grit plate. You can just take them, unpack the new one, 600 wants to be out in the open. Yeah, so here's what I'm talking about. There's actually a burr. And what I don't like about that, when you mount it in your sharpener, in the plate holder, if the burr is not controlled, so the angle may vary slightly from plate to plate. So I'm going to knock off that burr just by doing this. Give it a couple passes here, and then make sure that I didn't just push the burr on the other side. And now it's not as sharp to touch, as opposed to this feels like I could cut my skin with that. So I'm going to give it. So I'm going to knock off this burr on all my plates eventually as I get to them. And this 80 is rough. It's like a Raspberry file, Okay, so these work great. They fit into this holder just fine, even though the angle of the holder here that looks like maybe 60 degrees, and this looks like 45 degrees. But because there are little cushions there underneath, let me show you. These elastomer, some kind of rubber feeling cushions, the plate just ends up sitting on them and one line of contact with the plate holder. So I didn't see any problem. I didn't get any wobble in the edge. I can show you the edge right here. So let me try to get it as close as I can. So I didn't get any wobble, nice flat edge, and it cuts like there's no tomorrow. What I'd like to do next, I don't think I've ever shown you how the larger knife fits on this device. So I'm going to use this Ozark Trail blade to demonstrate. It's a 6 1/4 inch long blade, but the cutting edge is around 5 3/4. And it's pretty thick, definitely over 1/8 of an inch thick. 144 thou is the exact number. Important to know, the clamp can take a 1/4 inch blade. Let me demonstrate using this 1/4 inch driver bit. Once the knife is clamped with your sharpening plate installed, sweep the holder around until you find the spot where the plate can jump off the edge and scratch the primary bevel. The bushings will be bumping against this bearing here, so we need to position them that they restrict the motion in forward or reverse direction. These plates are pretty long, so I'm comfortable leaving 1/2 inch on each side of the plate and make necessary adjustments. Tighten the bushings when you're done. Make sure they're not moving. You're all set to go. As you can see, there is no way for the plate to jump off the edge and scratch your primary bevel. Next, I am going to finalize securing the blade and the clamps. And for that, I'm using a torque screwdriver, which, believe it or not, I also found on Amazon. So this is a pretty straightforward, inexpensive device that you probably already have in your toolkit. And if not, you know, just saying. Every screw size has a maximum allowable torque associated with it. Unfortunately, those table value torques fly out the window when you're dealing with two dissimilar metals. To avoid stripping these aluminum threads with a steel bolt, I started with half of the table value and worked my way up to 25 to 30 inch-pounds of torque. If you are unfamiliar with torque drivers, this is how you set the torque. If you are using tables that provide steel to aluminum torque values, please comment and provide us a link. Or you can email me the link. My email is in the channel description. This sound signifies that you have reached the desired torque. And I'm going to do one more just to double check that I'm there. We're going to repeat the process on the other clamp. We hear the same. Now when you hear the click, that means you're at 25. One more time just in case. And now your knife is secured. Metal-bound diamond plates don't actually require lubrication, but there was a recommendation in a comment to use soapy water, at least on the rougher grids. So you can raid your kid's hobby drawer and steal a paintbrush to apply soapy water to the plate. And it works. I liked it. This Ozark Trail 6.5-inch blade only set me back $20 after taxes. The blade is 7CR 27 MOV. I'll be using 400 and 600 plates for sharpening and 2000 for honing. In that respect, it's comparable with 1095 carbon steel, and I think they do it for the ease of sharpening. It is not going to be as tough as 1095 because of the presence of 0.7% of chromium. That 7 in the beginning of the nomenclature, that's what it stands for. And the reason I'm not changing the factory angle is because it's pretty high angle, and I think it's appropriate for the type of the knife. I don't want it to be too acute or oblique. So that's why I'm going through all these steps. I marked the edge, and now I'm putting in the 2000 grit plate and checking where it lands on the blade. I will make a couple of passes with the blade. Oops, forgot to tighten the thumb screw here. You have to do that. Anyway, on these short initial passes, I am checking where the marker paint is being removed from the secondary bevel. And because I was sharpening a much harder steel earlier, my angle is set pretty low. So I'm adjusting it here while checking where that black ink is being removed. And if it's being removed toward the spine of the blade, that means you need to increase the angle. If it is being removed from the apex of the blade, you need to decrease the angle. Once you see that the ink is being removed from the entire width of the secondary bevel of the edge, that means you just hit the factory angle. You're good to go. Here's why you need to check that all along the edge. This blade has a pretty long, extended straightaway section, and then it has this belly. So while the angle will remain consistent through the straight portion, it will be changing once you get to the belly. Outdoors 55 channel put an excellent video out there explaining all this. Unfortunately, some folks only watch the beginning or first 3/4 of the video, and he talks about the belly angle changes in the end. Most videos deserve to be skipped through, but not his. He's extremely knowledgeable, and he's a master. My method of dealing with the belly angle change is to mount the knife in such a manner that I minimize the issue. You see how the blade is mounted asymmetrically in the clamps? I push the belly out there as far as I can to your left here because This kind of compensates for the angle change as the belly starts rolling toward the pivot of rotation of the media holder. Outdoors 55 did promise a video on that topic. I am sure he has a similar method to mine, but we'll see when it comes out. And if it's already out there, let me know in the comments. I would love to see it. Once you match the factory angle on both sides, and yes, there could be variations, especially on inexpensive blades, you are almost ready to start the sharpening process. Here I'm zeroing my angle finder so that I can show you what the factory angle is. So let's see, is this the factory angle? 3¼ degrees? No. Is this the factory angle? 20.4 degrees? No. You have to add them to understand what the factory angle is. 23¾ is what I got, and it's slightly asymmetric because most likely they sharpened it on a double belt sharpener, and you depend on the person coming in completely square in order to get symmetric edge. And the said person, or should I say sad person, has to sharpen probably a couple hundred blades an hour in order for Walmart to sell the knife for $18.90. I start with a 400 grit plate, and I am not going to bore you with a sharpening process. I don't mind going back and forth on this inexpensive knife. Should I be working on a much more expensive knife, I would probably go monodirectional. One important thing I forgot to do, though, before I cut the segment, is I did not adjust the back bushing. And that's why my stroke is too short. So I'm going to move it out and just loosen it a little bit. Push it out. Checking where it's going to be on the blade. We're good. I leave about ½ inch space or goof factor distance on the sharpening plate. And I'm making sure it can reach all the way to the belly at full extension. And back to sharpening. And obviously I'm wetting the plate with the soapy water using the brush as I recommended earlier in the video. And I will report this. It definitely helps the process, and brushing it on rather than dipping the plate or spraying the water on it actually controls the muck, the mud that comes off the blade. I am very excited about my new strop because it's made in Ukraine. That's where I'm from. Anyway, it's a leather paddle style strop. And when I first opened it, which I already used it obviously, when I first opened it, the leather was so smooth and uniform on both sides. It was so uniform, I actually had to test it to see if it was real leather, and it is. Anyway, and it came with this green compound, which kind of looks the same, just a little more crumbly than what you get with your typical Chinese-made sets. But it's a lot more aggressive for some reason, and the smell of it reminds me my youth when I was apprenticing at a machine shop. Lastly, here's how I store the plates. A while ago, I got this knife folio or roll from Blade HQ with a purchase of a over $100 knife. They're usually $20, and they're on sale right now for 17 bucks. The plates are a little too long to fold it closed, so I hung it on the side of my bench, which is actually a Craftsman toolbox on wheels. And to hang them there, I use these hooks I made out of a coat hanger.